Well, welcome to Talk Lab. Today is March the 27th, and that is almost a week. So tomorrow will be 1 week, right, before match day 2025. Is that right? Did I have the date
Yeah,
right? Today's
yeah.
Thursday. I've been on vacation all week, so I forget. And so today I'm talking to a very special guest, Jennifer Ross Comptis. She actually was part of our community, the Match for Success, IMG Match Success community. And she has so graciously offered to share her story. And I know a little bit about it, but I'm not going to assume anything. So let's just start from the beginning. Just quickly introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and a little bit about your journey. And you can just talk about it, and I might ask you some questions, as we go. Is that okay?
That's perfect. So, hello everybody. I'm Jennifer Ross Comptis, as Simone said. I am Latin American. I was born in Cuba, so I still have my two last names. That was funny for the interviews, actually. Um, so I was born in Cuba when I was 10. I moved to Costa Rica with my mom and my grandparents. And in Costa Rica, uh, well, we were poor, like every immigrant. And we, I always wanted to be a doctor. So I work a lot to be able to get into the public in medicine school. And when I did my 6 years of med school, I graduated in 2013, which you can imagine doing the numbers, that's been 12 years ago. Also super funny for the match. Uh, so when I graduated, I decided that I wanted to give something back to my university because I was with the scholarship the whole time. I was working as a um, professor assistant in anatomy and histology. So when I graduated, I decided to become a professor myself, and I was giving classes for free in anatomy, for medicine, and for odontology. Years come by, and I started working as an hospitalist slash surgical assistant slash a little bit of everything because thank God in Latin American you can do a lot of those things, just showing skills and knowledge. And when it was around 2017, 2018, things started to get dangerous. A friend of mine, they tried to kidnap her daughter. I got followed a couple times when I was coming back home from calls. So I decided that, yes, Costa Rica is beautiful and I have my life there, but it's not livable anymore. It was dangerous. So I communicated with my father that he was living in United States for a while. And he was like, yeah, sure, come here. You can do the steps and everything's going to be unicorns and pink flowers. So it's July 2019, and I got to, yeah, COVID happens. I got here, I got to Florida, and I started studying for step one. My goal was to give step one around February 2020, and then I was going to be able to do everything before having 10 years of graduate. Uh, yeah, so once I started studying, things started happening in China. And we were like, what's happening around China? And then March 2020, the whole world stops. So I wasn't able to present my step one. But
Can
then
you
what do I do?
5 years ago? In some ways, it feels like forever, and in other ways, it feels like just yesterday, right? It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, everything stopped. The world got stop bottom for like 3 years. So what do I do to keep myself in medicine or in that world with all this situation. So I was, without documents at that point because I was still in the process of immigration and everything. So I couldn't work, even if I was a doctor and could help in the pandemic situation. So I started communicating with hospitals to see if there was any way that I can work. And there was a hospital, Larkin Community Hospital in South Miami, that they were having the initiative to help the community that they are. So they started doing a contact tracing team. So at some point, I become the coordinator of the contact tracing, and I started training other contact tracers, both in Spanish and English, for the Hispanic community.
And
Um,
this was a volunteer position, right?
oh yeah, 100% for free. We because of this, everybody was scared, nobody wanted to talk to us. So part of the idea to solve the situation that when we communicate with the person of interest, they will be like, oh, you're trying to scam me, I'm not giving you anything, no information whatsoever. So what we did is that we started contacting the TV channels, and I got multiple interviews explaining the situation, who we were, what we were trying to do, how we were helping, because we also were trying to communicate these people that has a lot of need with systems that can help them. Like, how can they, without having a salary or work or having to be at home, how can they pay their services? How can they get food, stuff like that? So we were doing that, and while we were in this process, we were like, well, why don't we start doing research? And it was part of the owner, Jack Mitchell, Dr. Jack Mitchell, of Larkin Community Hospital idea. He was like, well, we can create like an online platform in which people can come in, create groups, and just talk to each other and create research programs, research projects. So this started just like an idea, and we started using the COVID situation to do research. So we started with literary reviews, and then we started evolving into investigation and new drugs. That multiple of those were approved by the FDA. So then we started the clinical trials. At the end, well, we know.
So most of the people in these groups, would you say most of them were IMGs, or were they like who were in these groups?
They were mostly IMGs. I would say 99% IMGs. Although it was divided between US IMGs and non-US IMGs. We have a couple of AMGs, but they were mostly students that were stranded like us. So they were like, well, what would I do? What I do with this gap year? So they found this research idea, because I don't even know how to call it. Like nowadays, it's a really, really well installed project, and to get into it, you need to fill up a form and everything. Now at that point, everything was like, oh, we discovered this group. This is the phone number of the coordinator. Just text her, and we will add people. And that's it. It was just mouth to mouth. So at the end, probably we were like in the first 6 months, we were publishing like around 20 projects. We did abstracts, we did everything online. Because the congresses started and the conferences started being online too. So it was easy to just create abstracts and send. Um,
And
so
how
that
many were
was,
you involved with? How many projects were you involved with? And do they have your name
well,
on them?
yeah, I was coordinating. How can I explain this? We divided the whole people that were in the chat groups, because it was like at some point we had like 1,000 something people there. So nobody was working because it was a mess. We couldn't understand who were doing what. It was a mess. So we divide them by teams, and then these teams were also divided by projects. So I had a team for like with like 20 people, that were divided for around like probably 8 projects. So at that point also that was a situation like, oh, how are we going to manage the authorship? Because for you to be part of the author list of a project, you need um to give to the project some amount of percentage, and it has some regulations. So at some point we did have some issues, so that's why we decided to cap it 20 people per team. So yeah, you see my publications of that era, and you see like it's like three lines of names. And yes, the idea was that the ones that had more experience, we will be like second or third author, even if the idea or the person that was leading that was the principal author was another person, because in general we were like reviewing everything and everything to make it you to be able to publish. So this happened the whole time that the pandemic make us stop. But also I was thinking at that point, well, what would I do when all this opens again? So it started opening back around January 2021 or so. And still no immigration papers. I mean, at just immigration was opening again, so my process was still ongoing.
You do your step two at that time, the step two.
Not yet, not yet. Just at the end on 2020, no, March 2021, I did step one.
Okay.
Because when everything closed, I was like, I'm not gonna keep studying because I don't know when this is gonna open. So when it opens again, and I started like reviewing to give the exam, I was like, oh shoot, I don't know nothing. So I had to start kind of studying again. I had to brush like every topic deeply to be able to present the exam. And so I did my step one in March. Um,
And so was your goal to apply in 2021?
yes, my initial goal was to do everything through 2020 and then
And
apply in 2021.
okay.
So in that way, I would have been 8 years out of med school. So comes January and everything opens up, and yay, I got my green card. But I didn't have social security number because that part of the system of the government was still closed, so I couldn't work still. So I started working as a research fellow again with Larkin, also for free. And then over there, we started working with a lot of the residents and the attendants to do the academics of the hospital. So I probably have like 20 research publications at this point. So that helped me a lot. When I started, but again, it was like no salary. So I started looking for ideas or something that would give me money to eat. And at that point, the only thing that I can find was laboratories, because I mean we were having a pandemic, so everybody wanted to know if they had COVID or not. So I did my molecular technologist license, even if I knew zero about that topic at the moment. I applied using I presented my transcripts in Joseph and Selny, and through that they can give you your GPA.
Okay.
Yeah. So they give me a GPA and they give me the also the leveling of my career towards any other career here in United States. And thanks to that,
And
I just
that's something, that's a service that you have to pay for, right? And
yes,
it's kind of expensive,
at that point was like $250.
definitely worth it then.
Yes, because actually, and this is something important, there's a lot of boards that will allow you to do just this. You present the documents that Joseph and Selmy give you, and you can just present the exam. So molecular technologist is one. Another one is surgical assistant. Some boards for surgical technicians also allow it. And then boards for phlebotomist, AKG technician, and uh, the one that sees the
Telemetry,
AKGs in the
telemetry.
telemetry. Exactly.
Do you mind like
Um,
chat in the chat box the name of that service? All right.
yeah. Um, let me. It's Joseph and Silny. Let me see how. No, it says chat disabled.
Oh, I probably did that wrong. Okay. Boom. Okay, now try.
It's Joseph and Silny. So the only thing with them is that you need to make sure that your med school has the possibility to send everything through email because they do want the med school to send everything directly. What I did at that point, my school didn't have that service. What I did was I contacted the secretary of the students things, students business. I don't.
Affairs?
Yeah,
Student
students affairs. Yeah, that could be a good translation. And
called here. I don't know.
yeah, and I told her like, hey, I need. You don't know me, but I need help. I need you to send this to these people. This is my transcripts. You guys did give it to me. Please just send it. And they did that, and the process took like probably a week or less. So it's like pretty fast. And also, it's pretty good if you want to do a master degree or a PhD, anything that you want to advance your career without going through residency, you can do it through this system. Okay, so I did my molecular technologist license and I started working as a molecular technologist in a laboratory. And in the meantime, when of course the pandemic was going down a little bit, then I did my surgical assistant license because I work as with surgery in Costa Rica, so I had the knowledge. So I just did the exam again, and I started working as a surgical assistant. At the beginning, it was just like per diem, a couple days here and there, but then I was able to get into Memorial Regional Hospital. That's one of the big hospitals in South Florida. They have like five different hospitals.
This is a
And
paid position, right?
yeah.
So you went from a volunteer position to a volunteer research position, but in a a position of leadership, and then
Mm-hmm.
you started these paid gigs.
Yes. That again, they were in medicine, but they can be, updated in the system kind of. At some point, somebody told me, well, that's not hands-on unless you actually talk to patients. So I started voluntarily, um, kind of rounding with the residents that would allow me to. And that way, when I was able to get letters of recommendations, then I can, you know, the person who gave me the letter can say without any doubt that yes, I was seeing patients because I was.
So,
And that's something pretty important.
can I ask you, how did you go about asking these people if you could round with them? Like, how did that, in a practical
Well,
way, how did that look?
Well, I was doing surgery with them, and whoever has been in a or in a 4-hour surgery, we start talking about life and about things that has happened to us. So one thing comes to another, and then you're like, oh, well, yeah, I'm trying to do the steps, and I'm working on it, and I'm doing this work because I want to keep myself updated, and um I'm studying in the afternoons and night, and they are like, oh yeah, that's hard. And then you're like, hey, by the way, uh, do you think if I can like shadow you or see how things works here in the United States? Because, I have no idea. So some of them will say like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. But some of them will be like, yeah, sure, just be near me. And the same happened with the attendings. Some of them will be like, oh, you should do family medicine because that's easier, just being a nurse. But then some will be like, hey, yeah, I like that idea. I like that you're fighting for your goals. And of course, you can work with me. Actually, I need to thank Dr. Joab Pornavon. He's a plastic surgeon in Memorial. And thanks to him, I got 3 podium presentations in the ASPS, that is the American Society of Plastic Surgery Congress. Because exactly, I started working with him, and poured my life in a filtered version, of course. Um, and he was like, hey, I want to help you. You like to do research? I mean, you have a background in research. And I was like, yes, please. So we have been working together for almost 2 years at this point, doing presentations. I couldn't present it myself because since I'm not a surgeon, it was not allowed, but we also have a presentation in the ISEPS that it was done in Greek, if my memory doesn't fail me, because it's the International Society of Plastic Surgery and they don't allow non-surgeons there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did my step one, going back to the steps. I did my step one in 2021, in like March. Then I did my OET in May. I did my step two in August 2021, and I present my first time in the match. And I was traumatized because the process was completely new and completely like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I didn't know also that people like you, Simone, were helping us. So at this point, I was completely alone in that whole universe. And of course, the results weren't that good. I had to actually withdraw from the match because the deadline to present the pathway at that point, I did it, but like barely. So I didn't get the certificate in time. So I had to withdraw from the match. Either way, I didn't have any interview at that point, so nothing to do.
Right.
So at this point comes 2022, and I decided that might as well do my step three um since it was going to be something that I will be, taking out of my plate. And I realized that boards exams were something that, because of how many years of graduated I had, it might scare a little bit the program directors, because I would be like a loose end. So, life happened, and at the end, I did my step three in like October, November 2022. So I got my results in December. And because it was so late, I believe nobody actually see it. So nobody actually saw it. So I didn't have any interviews again.
So for the match 2023, when you were applying in fall of 2022, you feel like you didn't get any interviews because of a lack of step three? Is that what you're saying?
Well, in general, the thing is that I almost automatically get filtered at this point because of my year of graduate, right? So I was trying to do anything that will strengthen my application to be able to show up somehow. But because I didn't have my step three, I guess like that was my only opportunity to to enlighten somebody, to show some light in my application, and it was not in time. The results I didn't get in time. So,
But still, besides that, did you do anything else to try to get interviews that fall and that winter?
oh well, yeah, I did more research, and I did
I meant
this
network.
shadowings.
I meant networking. Yeah, talking to
Oh,
people.
I went to the well that that point was the first Project IMG meeting in New York. So yes, I went there and talked to a couple of surgeons. A lot of them actually were like, I don't know if you can do it.
Oh,
But
why?
personally, I kind of take those things as a challenge.
Hmm.
Some of them also were like, "Oh yeah, I like your story. You need to put in your personal statement that you went to the indigenous communities to work, and all the nice things about your med school story," and which I did. But yeah, at the end I didn't get any interviews, so I don't know what was the problem, but you know. So it comes my third attempt of the match, and I did a lot of um I did a lot of networking for that year. For sure, in that year I did the Miami project IMG. I did again the New York project IMG. I did a rotation in plastic surgery in Larkin Community Hospital. It was a dual rotation. I also rotate some days with general surgery. Uh, at this point, I was working with Dr. Barnabas, so I did two presentations in conferences. So I put myself in the spotlight as much as possible. And this year I got three interviews, one in general surgery, two in general surgery, and one in plastic surgery.
And
But again,
that was in the fall of 2023, right?
exactly,
So you got
exactly.
three interviews.
hmm But yeah, sadly, I didn't match. And
Did you
something
get soap?
interesting, yes, I went to soap, and yeah,
Get any
again,
interview?
nothing.
Oh, nothing. Okay.
No. But at this point, um, two things interesting. In one of the interviews in this process, they asked me why I had the type of research that I had, like, unofficial, like outside of an actual research institution, like by myself. And if I don't match, if I would think about getting into a research position of a year to strengthen my CV. And I was like, I don't understand why going, by myself doing research is not seeing with the same strength like going with a research institution like a university or a. So I never understood why that happened, but it's something that if somebody gets the opportunity to work in a research position, please do that. According to that program director, will to some program directors, it will strengthen your CV a lot. Um, well, at this point, we are in the soap, and we're at the end of March, and I have a friend that calls me and tells me, "Hey, I just got a position, but I was working in Arizona as PCP, as a primary care physician, and with the license, with the transitional license. Are you interested to come over here?" And I was like, "Of course." So. And that part was extremely funny because I literally got engaged in February 22 of 2024. And I just accepted a position to start June 1st in Arizona. So when I talked to my fiance, I was like, what we're going to do, because life happens through this whole process.
Right.
So he was like, well, we need to get married before that. So we got married in May 25th of 2024. We have, that's a long weekend. So we have the long weekend and trip towards Arizona as honeymoon. And I started working June 1st. Well, it was actually June 3rd because it was the Monday, but I started working as a primary care physician in an outpatient center.
Can I ask
Uh,
a question about that? I'm glad that
yes,
you had that experience, and other people have asked me, and I know it's different in different states. I understand the rules are different in different states. And I was familiar with Arizona's, but it seems like the big tripping point or obstacle for that is you have to find, a physician that is going to take you on. And
yes.
a lot of them think, well, why should I do that? I have to get more malpractice insurance and all that, where I could just hire a nurse practitioner or something. So, how did you overcome that? And what was it about this situation where that that physician would want to bring somebody on this transitional license?
Well, um, are we good? Are we having connection trouble?
No, I see you.
Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Okay, so yes, there's multiple states that have this: Arizona, Tennessee, Illinois, Missouri, uh, um, Florida. It's kind of playing with it. New York, Washington, and also California. Some parts of California has something that works with this. They call it a bridge program. So the idea with this is that you need to find a practice mostly, except Tennessee, because they want a place that has a residency program. So that would be a hospital. But you need to find a practice that the doctor is looking for somebody else. You can find it through the associate. There's an association called ALMA, that it's American Latino Medical Association. And then there's also a lot of associations like Medical Graduate Association. Then there's the NHMA. So there's multiple associations that has doctors that are looking to help. Because at the end of the day, yes, like you say, for them it's kind of a hassle to have us. Because yes, they need to do the malpractice insurance, they need to supervise us directly for 6 months. Uh, and also it's a position with a salary, so they need to pay us. Although the salary is normally the same as the residency salary or the starting salary of a nurse, like the general nurse. So it's actually a lot. We are a lot cheaper
Well,
than
it's a good.
the nurse practitioners or the
Can
physician
you put
assistant.
the can you put the names of those organizations, or at least the initials, in the chat? You said you gave three different ones, and that's the first time I've ever heard that you could actually go somewhere and find these physicians. That's been a mystery.
Well, they are not. Yeah, sadly, they are not advertised per se. But in these organizations, like you go, you get inside the organization, and then, for example, in the Medical Graduate Association, they have a chat, and whenever somebody needs so have a position, they will post it there. In Alma, they have there's like 5 or 6 doctors that are inside the association, and they have people, so you can email the association and say, hey, I'm interested in looking for this position, do you know somebody? It's networking. All this is networking. Sadly, this is not advertised per se, because at the end of the day, it's kind of a sponsorship, the
Right.
position of the doctor. So how would you advertise something like that? And like Indeed,
Yeah.
um
And one
so
thing,
it's
or most of these, you have to have a green card at least. Is that right?
you need to have, well, I as of right now, there's like a bunch of like different names for things. So you need to have a list, a work permit.
Mhm. Okay.
Like they won't do visas. They don't do J1 or HB1. They don't do that. you need to have the possibility to work without, any issue. I don't know if it's green card, I don't know if it's just like work permit, but you need to have something that lets you work in this country legally. Um,
I
so
mean,
yeah,
I'm not a visa, like I'm not an immigration expert, but I know there are a few there, and you would know if you were one of those. I think you would know.
yeah,
You can't just go out and get one. You have to have it or applying for it. So,
exactly. So let me just 1 second to, okay, yeah. Those are the three that I know that exist. Um, there's probably a bunch more, but those are the ones that I am right now with them. So I started
how
work.
was that? How was that experience?
Yeah, so I started working there, and it was like an eye-opening experience. I mean, up to this point, I was working, yes, as a surgical assist, as a molecular technologist, everything inside hospitals, but I didn't see, um, that part that is the face-to-face and follow-up of the patient. And this was an outpatient center in, well, this is because I'm still in the position I will finish when I move back to Florida for my residency. But um, it's a community outpatient center when we see everything. We see patients from the Indian communities, we see indigenous communities, we see patients that comes from Canada, that comes from Chicago, because we see the snowbirds. And then we see all the people that it's,
Okay, just so everyone knows, a snowbird is an older person that lives in the north, and during the winter they migrate to the south, kind of like the birds do. Right.
yeah, and then because we're so near the border, we also see all the immigrants that are coming in to the border. But we also have a lot of patients that are American citizens that have properties in Mexico. So they live over there, and they do kind of backwards that the snowbirds do. They live over there, and then they just go north now and then. Uh, so you can imagine the cultural background of these people is completely different in each one of the situations. And also the conditions that they had, the economic, the cultural, the language, everything is completely different in each one of them. So that's something that helped me. Well, first it was a really big learning experience, but thank God, this position gave you some months of direct supervision, so I was able to, first, I won't say do mistakes, but at least like to ask and to my supervisor, and make sure that what I was doing and thinking to do, it was the correct thing. Um, and it was really good. I also learned how to use EMR that I realized a lot of people use too. I learned how to do the notes, and it's been a year of hands-on experience. So also basically this gave me a license in the country. It's a transitional or restricted or whatever you want to call it license. But when you fill up your ERAS application, and they changed the order this year, I realized when I finished it. The first thing that the program director will see after your name and your basic demographics is if you have a license in the country. And I don't know if this is real, but somebody told me that will change like your classification. Instead of like non-US IMG, you will be a senior IMG because you got a license in the country. So the normal filters in theory don't apply. And I can tell this year I got 6 interviews. Well, I got invited to 6 interviews. One of them was in Puerto Rico with the BAs, and they asked as a condition to give me a date for the interview that I was a United States citizen, which I'm still not. I'm in the process, but I'm not yet. So I told them that, and they were like, no, you need to show proof of naturalization for us to give you the interview. So that one dropped off. And then I have 5 interviews, one of them with a pre-match program and 4 of them with normal programs. And thank God I ended up matching in one of my a categorical in internal medicine. But the study doesn't end there, because when I was 15 days inside this new job in the whole complete side of the country, I realized that I was pregnant. So it was the whole stress of going through interviews and going through application process, and preoccupied that what would they think if they realize that I'm pregnant? What could happen? Like, would that be good? Would that be bad? So actually, one of my interviews was in person, and thank God I was not showing that much at that point. So nobody that I know of, nobody noticed. But yeah, it was another thing. It was a challenge that I was preoccupied and anxious the whole time, because how can that affect the situation, right? So
By the way, this is the year of the babies in this community because we've had 3 babies that I know of this in our little community this year. So it's kind of crazy.
yeah, so that's my story. And thank God I ended up matching in Florida, so I'm going back home basically. And yep, any questions that I
Okay,
can
yeah.
help?
Yeah, I have a couple and then we'll have them come on and ask. Um, so for your interview, so for the one that you matched to, did you have any prior uh, sort of connections there in the one in Florida? Had you ever worked in the program or worked as a surgical assistant, or did you know anybody who knew
No.
anybody?
No, the only connection that I have with them is that we were all Cubans.
Okay, well, who knows?
Yeah, but the day that I interviewed there, we were 8, and 7 of the 8 were Cuban. So I cannot say that that was something in my favor per se, because almost everybody was Cuban. But
Mhm.
it was the only connection. Um, because yeah, no, I actually I applied to the program because I was like, you know what? I want to apply to 100 programs this year, and I need 100 programs. So this program specifically tells you that they don't, in the website, that they prefer people that has been graduated under 5 years.
Okay. So you didn't feel like
And
you had a good chance there.
exactly. So and actually this was literally, we sent everything in September 26th.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the 2 days later, I received the invitation for the interview with them, and I was like, "Wow,
So I
how did this
feel
happen?"
that your what you said earlier, like because you had that transitional license, that it changed the filtering process. Uh,
Yes,
that seems to be, and maybe you could ask them and let us know anyway. Once you get there, you
yeah,
ask them, hey, why did I get, they may not remember actually, but whoever does the filters, they might know. That would be a great piece of information for us to have if you
yeah.
could. And another question is, it seems like you had a lot of surgery, you had a lot of research, a lot of surgery, and family medicine really, or community medicine in a clinic. So how did that transition to internal medicine?
Well, there's a saying in Spanish that it's something like, you get the first opportunity for free, but the second one you need to work for it, and the third one doesn't happen. So my first opportunity, I had a scholarship to Harvard of 3 months when I was in med school. And over there, the coordinator of the of the rotation, he told me like, "Hey, do you want to do a residency here?" And at that point, I was 21 years old. I was a baby and I didn't know what I wanted in my life. So I was like, "No, I'm happy in Costa Rica, and nothing's gonna happen, and everything's perfect. So I don't need it." And then, life started to happen. And when I grew up and I started adulting, I realized the huge opportunity that I let go. Of course, maybe this doctor would have not been able to do a lot, but even a letter of recommendation for somebody from Harvard would have been like a huge uh something. And I said, no, thank you. So that was the opportunity that I let go. So my second opportunity, I need to work for it. And yes, I started more oriented towards surgery, but I always have thought that medicine is not, a heart with fits, or I don't know, a breast with fits. We are humans, and we are a compound of things together. So for you to be a good doctor, even if you love surgery, or if you love family medicine, or if you love ophthalmology, you need to have knowledge about everything else. And I think that mentality actually helped me to be able to say, okay, well, I do like surgery because I like the hands-on of medicine. Not because, oh, I like to cut people. No, you know, it's like I like the opportunity to engage with this patient and make him feel better, or her. So if it's through medicine, through internal medicine, through ophthalmology, through whatever it is, I want to do that. So that's how I try to put a little bit of everything always in my medical career, and that helped me to open to different opportunities if they will appear. And in this case, because yes, I work in the emergency room, and I work in family in communities, indigenous communities, and in places that you don't have nothing to work with. I was able to interview for this position in internal medicine.
So you feel like because of the way that you framed your career in the interview, that really helped. So somehow the filters let you through to these six, which ended up being five. But something was different in the interview. You felt like that made a difference for you?
Yeah, thanks to you.
I wasn't trying for that, but I just thank you
No,
anyway.
no, but it's true. It's true. I mean, I've been always really bad selling myself, really bad. And actually, again, the thing about opportunities, I met you in the first Project IMG in Miami
We did. Oh,
in what was that, 2023?
yeah, 2020.
And you were as nice
Yeah,
as now.
2020. Yeah, 2023.
Yeah. And you were as nice as you are right now, and you presented yourself. And I remember that you were RVing all
I
the way
did.
from Texas. And we have a really nice conversation. And at the end, you were like, "Hey, if you want to, I'm open to help you guys in whatever you need." And I remember that 3 months later, we connected through LinkedIn and everything. And I was like, no, I mean, I have done more things than the last year. So I don't believe that I need, guidance. Because that's something that some doctors have. And I do. I didn't believe that I had it, but maybe I do a little bit, and I've been working it. It is that we sometimes believe that we know it all. And so being in this process for so many times, uh humbled me, because this humbles you. Like, it's a situation that you start like doubting about yourself, and then sometimes you're like, yes, I can do this, I got it. And then the next one, it's like, nobody likes me and I cannot do this by myself. So getting a support net and a good network, because they are not the same thing. It's really important. You need the people that even if they're not in medicine, they will be cheerleading for you. And then you need the people in medicine that will be supporting your career and telling their neighbor in medicine, hey, this person is good, please help. Or if you cannot help, then say it to the next person, like keep going. So the net of people that knows you gets it starts growing. And yeah, answering your question, um I have always been really bad selling myself. So thanks to your advice and the way that you focus and organize my life, basically, my CV and my personal statement, it helped me a lot to realize what were the important things to say and how to say them in a way that for the English speaker and the American native, it would be catching and it would be interesting. Because sometimes, as you can notice, I'm just verboraic, and sometimes I say a lot of things, but I don't say much. And you help me a lot to at least in the interview, not in life, but at least in the interview,
Mhm.
to get better with that.
Well, good. Thank you for that. There are a couple of questions here. First was, how did you get the license? I think we talked a little about that, but maybe she doesn't really understand that process. I know that you were introduced to that opportunity from a friend, so you were able to
Yeah.
just sort of get into it. It's not easy to find those positions, but I guess that's what she's asking. How do you get the license?
Yeah, basically, the majority of the license you need to have a sponsorship. So, um, yeah, that I believe all the states you need to have a sponsorship. Some of the states ask you to have at least 3 years of specialty or any training similar to specialty, whatever that means, because nobody has been able to understand what they actually mean with
That's
that.
Right, that's a problem. That's a problem. Some of them say you have to have finished residency in your home country, but then how does that translate? There is a lot of trickiness there, but I would say
Yeah,
it's
but
worth
in
a try if you have a work permit. What happened to my? Did y'all hear?
yeah, no,
Still on?
yeah, yeah, everything's good.
Okay,
Don't worry.
it looked like things blinked here. We're having a storm. Yeah, so
So just to summarize, you need to get the sponsorship, and then once you get the sponsorship, there's a form in the state that you're going to apply for the license. You fill up that form, you present it to the person that is giving you the sponsorship. They sign it, and then you send it to the board. Also the something that they always ask you for is to have a CFMT certificate, so at least step one, step two, and OET at this point. And you need to present them a copy or whatever of the email that said that you didn't match, but that you did apply, and at least one email or communication for a program telling you that you are not going to get an interview with them. So at the end, you went unmatched because nobody gave you interviews or whatever the reason, but you need to present at least those papers, because the idea of these positions in general is that you're going to be doing a bridge between being a IMG that doesn't have like American experience to be a resident in this country. So in general, some license will allow it, but in general, they don't want you to keep working under a transitional license and then get a non-transitional license. Like I said, there are some licenses that allow it right now. They were, I think, Tennessee, and I think Florida is trying to do that too. But they are so new that it's still like in a gray area. Uh, but
every state is
but yeah.
different. Every state is
Hmm.
different. So, and
But
some
that's like the summary.
Well, yeah, that's thank you. There are even some states are saying if an IMG has completed residency in their own country, there should just be like a 1 year kind of sponsorship and then they get their license. But that's all just, you can't, people here listening to this can't really count on any of those things. So if you want to do that, figure out what's going on in the state where you are or where you want to apply to, and then you have to try to find, those opportunities through networking. That's kind of how that works. Um, and then it says, would you please post the Larkin research community you mentioned? What was the name that you said now that you have to apply to? And
Yeah, well,
that
I
was sort
haven't
of,
been working with them recently, but I can look it up and send it to you maybe Simon later,
sure.
and you can post it in your, because yeah, it's a link, and you go through the link, and you, because they want to make sure that people, it's at least related to medicine, because there was a point that people with nurses background and odontology background were getting into the system, which is okay. I mean, it was open to everybody, but it was a mix and match between med students,
Oh,
IMGs, and people from every background. So they start. That's why everything was reorganized, and now you need to fill up a
but
form. And
you were in the ground floor of that.
yeah, exactly. I was at the beginning, so I
Again,
kind of lose a little bit.
looking for the opportunities and grabbing them, not really knowing the outcome. I mean, that's kind of how I talk about networking and in general. You network for networking's sake. You can't really network to do a thing. It doesn't work that way. You network and you just meet people and you tell them your story, Jesus from the OR, right? And you just tell them your story and you have the big ask, which is what you were doing also in the OR, saying, "Hey, by the way, could I, you asked, you opened your mouth and you asked, and you use the network that you have in order to, connect you with someone else who you don't even know yet."
Yeah.
So
And the thing that everybody needs to think is that you already have the no. So go for the yes. Worst case scenario, they say no, and you already have that. So, go for the yes.
That's great in sales. Go for the no. That's what I kind of do usually. I'm like, okay, no, all right, that's fine. All right, so I like Katarina's question. You matched in IM and presented it all in such a way that helped you match in IM despite your experience in surgery, right? And your other,
Yep, definitely. Definitely. Like I said, I mean, don't lie, because it's gonna show. Don't lie. But um, even even if you have a residency in surgery, I mean, you must have done something related to internal medicine at some point in your career. And even in surgery, I mean, you treat patients in a daily basis. So you have a patient with hypertension, with cardiac disease, with other things that also you need to have surgery because of an appendectomy.
mm,
So if you can change a little bit the focus of your experience to show up that you were not only, in the OR cutting people, but you were also treating the patient that was behind that surgery. And that's why that's what I did, and it helped me a lot. And to do that, and again, not advertising, but I am really thankful with you, Simone, and you helped me a lot to do that too.
you
So
can advertise. You can advertise. It's fine. Uh, No, but one thing I do, when I'm talking to someone, in these one-on-one mock interviews or whatever, I call them strategy sessions. And if someone has a lot of experience in one specialty, but they're applying for another one for whatever reason, there are always lots of reasons. Sometimes it's just because it's easier to match in internal medicine, but sometimes people really do want to change. They don't want the hours of surgery or OBGYN. They want a more regular schedule. And so I say just speak their language, talk about your cases in a way that someone in internal medicine would understand or someone in pediatrics would understand. So you kind of have to figure out what their language is and speak to that. Not in a manipulative sort of way. It's just the way you're focusing your conversation is to someone, who's interested in a certain type of medicine. And so you speak to that. I know what's going on now. I have this crazy light that just goes on and off by itself. I don't know why. I don't believe in ghosts or
So
anything.
another thing important about internal medicine is that internal medicine helps you to be like a hub in which you can coordinate other things. So even if your experiences in surgery, you can also have experience in surgery and work in internal medicine perfectly fine. So, and because I was, now that you mentioned that, because I was having a baby and just got, into a marriage and everything, I decided that yes, the hours and uh, the system in general, how surgery, like only surgery works. It was not for me, like for the goals of the family that I had. And to answer Katrina, yes, it is in this situation, like in the point that I was working was an outpatient center. So yes, it was 8 to 5 because we had like 1 hour of lunch. And it's like, the working hours of a clinic. So you will have sick days and vacation days and like a normal contract.
That doesn't sound too bad. And I don't, she's asking, can you take days off for appointments? And I'm not sure what you mean by that, Katarina. Do you mean for, like professional appointments or for interviews? Is that what you meant? I'm not sure. Yes. She said yes, and I still,
Oh
doctor.
yeah, in that case, well, they will probably. I mean, I don't know. It's depending of the contract that you get into because it's with a work contract, but probably will fall into sick days
Yeah, personal.
or non-pay, yeah, or non-paid days,
Yeah.
however you want to treat it.
Yeah, these days it's more normal just to have a block of days that you can use however you want. It could be sick
Mm-hmm.
days, it could be personal days. You just get so many. Everyone's different though. It just depends on who you're working for.
Yeah, that's the PTO.
PTO, that's right, PTO. I haven't worked for anybody in a long time, so I don't know. So yeah, so that sounds great. Any other questions? It's like the same thing, Katarina. I think you get a block of days, and it would change. It would really change depending on who you're working for. So there's no like one way of, answering that question. That would be something part of your contract. Okay. All right. Well, I cannot believe it. We have done this for an hour and 10 minutes and baby's not screaming. Tell us your baby's name again.
It's Joshua.
Joshua. That's right. I love that name.
My
Josh.
mom has him, so probably she's just rocking him back and forth,
But you
trying to
said
keep
he
him
was
quiet.
I want to let you go though, because I know that it's important for you to go and be with him. And I really do appreciate you taking this hour, precious hour, and telling us your story. It is very inspirational, and I learned a lot by it, so I appreciate it. And stick around, check in every once in a while. In the community now, we will be switching to residency readiness, which is kind of a communications course for those who are starting residency. Of course, anybody is welcome to come. So we're going to do patient-centered communication skills, workplace communication, those sticky things that happen sometimes in a workplace, in a clinic, or any place like that, as well as other just general communication skills. So everyone is welcome, whether you matched or didn't match, and we can learn together there. And so next week it will be Thursday Night Live, and then in 2 weeks we'll have our first talk lab that will be associated with our residency readiness course. So hop over there and do some of those videos, and then we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. So, yeah. Vanessa says, would you be open to us contacting you for advice and networking and all that? I know you'll be very busy. Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, and also, by the way, there's the networking challenge, and a lot of the things that Jennifer talked about is actually covered in the IMG, the networking challenge. So things like just getting your stuff together, like your plan. It's like a networking plan, and it's step by step by step. And I know from tonight's conversation that I'm going to be making some adjustments to that course. Okay, so yeah, to add some more layers onto it just from some of the things you talked about. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate your kind words. And just remember, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm here for my PGY ones, and I've got chief residents now. So that's really awesome. And I'm not going anywhere. If you need anything, Jennifer, between now and the time you start, or even after that, do not hesitate. My superpower is that I don't have anything to do with the medical community. So anything you tell me, I have no one to tell. So that's it. All right. So thank you again, and I'll say good night, and I'll see you in the community. Bye bye.
Bye.